Anthropic has released 16 Claude updates in the last 11 weeks, and you probably feel behind, which is totally understandable. So if you're a free, pro, or max user, we're going to be going through all 16 updates. And so you'll discover what the update is and actually how to use it. And this is the only guide on YouTube that covers all 16 of these updates. And by the way, I'm Marlon. I help businesses implement AI into their systems, and this AI stuff is all I do all day long. So let's catch you up with a very quick first update. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to explain the update to you and then show you actually how to utilize it, because the further we go along, the more hands-on we get. So obviously the Opus family had a massive upgrade with 4.6. It can read roughly 750,000 words, and that's really the 1 million token context window. It scored a 90.2 on Big Law Bench, which just means it can reason through real lawyer level legal work and get it right 9 out of 10 times. And it's just a massive upgrade, right? So this is kind of the big brother. Then obviously we have the little brother, which is Claude Sonnet 4.6, right? Not quite as powerful, but way quicker, cheaper, and handles nearly every job. So it scored almost 80% on the SWE bench, which tests whether AI can fix real bugs from real GitHub projects. And now it's the default for everyone. For developers using the API, it costs about 40% less than Opus to run. And testing developers actually preferred it over the previous top model, which was Opus 4.5. And then we got Claude Cowork. Now, everyone seems to love Cowork, myself included. I'm about to open it up for you here in a sec to set it up. But Cowork essentially is the same engine as Claude Code. It's just a different vehicle. So you're just swapping the engine. Essentially, Cowork is the Claude Code for non-techies. So this is Cowork here. And you can do a lot of things with it. And as the video goes on, we'll actually layer on top and add some other cool features. Essentially, you just have to have it pointing again at a folder. This is your model selection, and then we can actually add skills to it if we want to do something, connectors, and then plugins, or we can add files or photos. For the majority of the public, Cowork is an awesome feature. So now go to settings, go to Cowork, and let's just chat briefly about global instructions before moving on. So instructions here apply to all Cowork sessions. So really what is taking place is that the more AI starts augmenting your life, starts automating a lot of stuff, you want to provide guardrails, safety guardrails specifically. So a lot of people, and I talked about this before, but a lot of people do not touch global instructions. So again, Cowork has the ability to edit, has the ability to delete, do a ton of stuff. So global instructions essentially provide those guardrails. So we have a before every task, we have a planning rule, we have a communication style, so no filler language, no fluff. We have an output defaults, right? So what kind of what outputs are we looking for? And then obviously, most importantly, we have an uncertainty protocol. So if confidence is low on any part of a task, say so. Never delete any files without my explicit confirmation. That is the most important part. And you should definitely put that line in your global instructions, including a bit of the rest. If you want this, just comment down below. So we have plugins and marketplace. Let's first touch upon plugins. So plugins are a very useful feature. Essentially, this is plug and play expertise. If you come to customize, and we can come and browse plugin. Anthropic and partners have essentially added some very common, I call plugins departments of your business. So just think if you had a productivity department, a design department, an engineering department, a legal department, X, Y, and Z. So really all a plugin is an amalgamation of three things. Number one, a command. So how to actually call upon this certain plugin that you want to use. Skills, which we'll talk about later on. And then connectors. Connectors are essentially just giving your employee apps that you use on a daily basis to achieve the task that you want done. I have skills, right? So we have a memory management, and the skill clearly defines what that is. Again, we'll talk about skills in a sec here. We have a few skills here. We have a few connectors. I can also customize. So it comes back to Cowork, customize productivity plugin for me based on my company, X, Y, and Z. So there's a lot of functionality with plugins. And then we had a marketplace come out, which is essentially more for the Claude Code users. So if you're heavily involved in Claude Code, you can actually come to this repo here. And then this is the Claude plugin official repo. A few things to keep in mind. You want to make sure that there's a sufficient amount of a few things. Number one, activity. So like, did this just get developed yesterday? Is there no activity? There's a lot of commits, which is awesome. And most importantly, there's a lot of stars. Okay, so that's essentially the public saying, I've used these are great. So it is kind of based on social capital. And then we look at contributors. Who are these people? We see Claude here, which is great. So you just want to look for common signs on what repo you're actually using. So you have a bunch of access to external plugins and then just normal plugins. Important to note, they do make it very clear. Make sure you trust a plugin before installing, updating, or using it. That's why it's super important to make sure you're on the proper repo before downloading this. Installation is very important. Just basically copy this, put the plugin name in, and you're good to go. So then we had Excel, PowerPoint, and Skills. I actually don't use Excel and PowerPoint. I use some other tools. But Claude works directly inside Excel and PowerPoint now as add-ins. Okay, so you can basically just call upon Claude in Excel or PowerPoint, and their ability now is really, really good. Now let's talk about skills, because skills are one of the most important things, I think, and kind of most underutilized potentially, but it's really the foundation of how anything gets done. So if you recall, we come back to customize and we can go to skills. Now I do have a set of skills. Now all a skill is as it kind of sounds, it's just essentially a document of very specific instructions on how to complete a task. So for instance, you have many skills, right? Maybe that's art, maybe that's music, maybe that's building something, maybe that's just your actual job that you're doing right now. And if I were to say bundle all your information up into a document so that if you were to hand it to somebody, they would kind of know how to do a specific task or a skill rather, right? That's essentially what this is. Now, the important part is that it's very in depth. So I have a YouTube thumbnail skill here. This description, essentially, Claude is always reading, to my understanding. So let's just take the human brain for a sec. If you were to always be thinking about everything you constantly know, all the skills you know, it would just be too much bandwidth. And again, your context window would be too big. You couldn't really get anything done. So what instead the brain does is it basically just compartmentalizes things for specific tasks. So when you're working, you're using one specific skill and you're not thinking about the other skills. That's the exact same thing with skills here. Claude has made this super easy for you. You actually have a skill creator. So if you're like, how do I actually create all this documentation? You can just ask Claude, create me a skill. And a really good way to do it is just conversationally. So if you have a great chat you're having, you're like, wow, this is really useful. All you can say is just Claude, turn this into a skill. So the way to call upon skills is you can actually call it by name, so auto post content, or like I said, Claude is always reading the description. So there is some insight already there. So if you're just saying, hey, I want help cross-posting this video, it's going to pull this skill up. All right, so that's the beautiful thing about it. And then I can obviously come here, I can try it in the chat. I can edit with Claude just if I want to fine tune it, or I can even download it. And then we have some reference materials. Now for references, you can either put examples, you can put other guides. All right, so I have a TikTok post guide. I have a X post guide, X, Y, and Z, just to give it more information. So when it comes to skills, think about all the things you're doing on a daily basis and just start creating SOPs or documentation regarding those tasks. And you can use this in chat, Cowork, and Claude Code. So then we recently just had dispatch and computer use. Now, this revolves more around the phone and actually being able to leave your computer. So you can message Claude from your phone and it completes tasks on your computer, right? Like how cool is that? I can actually start using my phone now to get things done, and I don't even have to be around my computer, right? And this comes off the back end, obviously, of OpenClaw and all that success. So Anthropic wanted to catch up a little bit, and so that's why you're having a lot more flexibility with the phone now, just like OpenClaw. So when it comes to dispatch, there's a few things I need you to keep in mind. Dispatch, or the access to the phone, works in Cowork. All right, so if I come here, you can see dispatch. Now, there's a few things I need you to keep in mind. And as you can see here, I was actually just getting dispatch. I was at the gym, and I basically just said, hey, pull up my X account and start posting on my behalf. And so as you can see here, 5 replies posted on trending posts. So that's really cool, right? I didn't have to be around here. I didn't have to do the work. Instead, it did it for me, and I just communicated with my phone. And so you want to make sure you are updated on your phone, and you can go there and it's going to say dispatch as well. 2 things to keep in mind. You want to keep it awake. Dispatch only works if this is awake, right? So you want to keep it awake if you are using dispatch. So again, dispatch is just the connection between your phone and Claude. Then we had something called computer use, right? Now, computer use is essentially giving access to almost your entire system. So let Claude take screenshots to control your keyboard and mouse and apps you allow. So how computer use works with Cowork. In Cowork, Claude uses the most precise tool first. When you assign a task, Claude follows this order, right? Connectors, browser, screen integration. What you can do, you can pull together competitive analysis using local files and connected tools. You can open your phone simulator, interact with the app you developed, and find UX issues, fill in a spreadsheet with data from multiple sources, and navigate apps. So for computer use, you just want to select this on. And again, you basically selecting this on, you will see this. So Claude will take screenshots of your screen and control your mouse and keyboard. You'll approve each app, but not confirm each step. Keep in mind, some actions can't be undone. Apps you approve could open other apps. Websites and docs could contain malicious instructions and close anything sensitive. So the more of your information you start giving access to Claude, the more guardrails you want to provide. You also want to grant accessibility and screen recording. Now, the real breakthrough with computer use, again, it can browse your screen. So you don't really need APIs. You don't really need to know how to set them up. For instance, if you want to browse social media, you want computer use to actually start posting on your behalf, replying. Traditionally with social media, it was very difficult because obviously they don't want spamming taking place. And so you can actually bypass a lot of things, okay? And some things just don't have an MCP, some things just don't have an API, and they can be a bit of a pain sometimes to set that up. Computer use kind of just bypasses that all, and now you actually have access to your entire computer. And so imagine you're at the gym, imagine you have dispatch enabled, you have computer use enabled. Now you can actually start using your phone to get a lot more work done. Again, it can browse things. You can say, hey, do this for me, do that for me. You start to really unlock the leverage of AI while not even being at your desktop. Then we have free memory and inline visuals. Before, every conversation was like meeting a stranger, right? Now Claude remembers you, it draws charts right in the chat. So memory is now free for everyone. And obviously they've spent a lot of time on the memory function because before it seemed like just a black hole. Now it really starts to remember a lot of your conversations, which is great. And now we obviously have visualizations taking place. Now, I don't know how I feel about the visualizations. It feels like anything I ask it, it's just going to give me a chart now. And sometimes I just don't want a visual. And so I'm getting used to it more and more so. Obviously, this presentation you're looking at is created with their visuals. So kudos to them. I mean, they're great and all. And you can get visuals done for you. Essentially, you don't need to go to a third party. X, Y, and Z. Then we have scheduled task. This is another Cowork feature that helped tremendously. So essentially, you can set an alarm for any task you want. You can even do every Monday morning at 9 a.m., summarize my inbox. It just runs automatically, and I'll show you how to do that here in a sec. So you can schedule recurring or one-time tasks in Cowork. You can do daily reports, weekly reviews. So it's super easy. A few things to take note. Obviously, keep it awake. This is not awake. Again, it's not going to run, but it's really easy to set up. You can just go new task. You're going to create a name, a description, and then a prompt. Then frequency, super sweet. You can go manual. You can do hourly. You can do daily, right? With the time there, you can do weekdays. So they give you a lot of flexibility. And then more options. You can set your model, and then you can specify which folder you want this in. And then it's going to essentially run. So you see I have every Sunday. So if we just go to this real quickly here, run my morning X reply session using the X reply guy skill. So now we're calling upon skills that are scheduled tasks. Like, look how cool that is. So essentially this is just like telling an employee, hey, in the morning, just start, DMing people essentially, right? So again, you can start scheduling these tasks while now calling that skill, because obviously the skill is the actual like a doing of the work, right? So that is scheduled tasks, absolute game changer. And just think about all the use cases now that you can use these scheduled tasks. And so then Claude declared ad free, right? So ChatGPT explored ad supported models. No one seemed to like that. And then we saw a phenomenal advertising campaign that Anthropic put together, and they went the opposite direction. So hopefully never ever there are ads in Claude. We'll see. And then we had remote control channels and voice. So remote control, you can just message sessions from your phone and web. And this was kind of like the first update where like developers could actually leave their desks. And then the code stays local, which is super important. And then channels, obviously OpenClaw has this as well, but you can just message Claude code via Telegram, Discord, or iMessage. and it runs tasks and messages back essentially. And then we had voice mode. Okay, now everyone seems to be transitioning into voice. But so those are 16 updates in the last 11 weeks, 1.5 per week, and it's not slowing down anytime soon. So if you liked this video, subscribe. Worst case, you unsubscribe in the next 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 weeks, whatever the case may be. Best case, you learn something very cool such as AI, and it actually helps you get a competitive edge. And as always, stay human, and I'll see you next time.